Hello.
Hello, Mrs. Naylor.
Yes, I'm here.
How are you?
I am fine and ready to go with all these wonderful questions.
Wonderful. Well, boys and girls, I'd like to welcome to us this afternoon from her home in Maryland. Please welcome Newbery award-winning author, Mrs. Phyllis Reynolds Naylor. Okay, so Mrs. Naylor is ready for our first question. So, Michael, go ahead. You're first.
Hi, my name is Michael, and my question for you is how old do you have to be to become an author?
You only have to be old enough to be able to write or print or type out a story. I've heard of people in their teens who had books published. If you write a story or a book that is good enough to be published, it doesn't matter how old you are or whether or not you've gone to college. If it's a good story, somebody sometime will probably publish it.
Excellent. Good question. Great question, Michael. Okay, Abdi, go ahead with your question, honey.
Hi, my name is Auntie. I'm 9 years old. My question for you is, what is your favorite Shiloh book?
What is my favorite Shiloh book?
Yes.
Yes. I'm having just a little bit of trouble hearing. They're not quite loud enough, but I think I got that. Probably the very first one. Maybe the very first one and the very last one that I wrote. It's hard to say because they all sort of run together as one story, but I do like the first one the best.
Okay, good question. All right, Giovanni, you want to read your question?
Hi, my name is Giovanni. What was the first book you read that inspired you?
Oh, wow. Do you know, I really can't remember. What I do remember is the first book that was read to me that inspired me, and that was my dad reading Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. That book has stayed in my mind all my life, and I think I would just have to say that of all the books I ever read or listened to, that was the one that inspired me most.
Excellent. Good. Javier, go ahead. You're next.
Hi, my name is Xavier. When are you planning to write your next book?
Right now, as soon as I get off the phone. In fact, I'm going to be revising a book. I wrote, a funny tall tale called Roxy and the Hooligans a few years ago. And then I wrote a sequel to it called, Roxy and the Ransom of Smokey Joe. And I just got that back in the mail this morning with all kinds of requests from the editor of editing it. So I'm going to be working on that, and that will probably come out sometime next year.
Good. Excellent. Okay, Gabriel, you're next.
Hello, my name is Gabriel. I'm 9 years old. My question for you is, what inspired you to make a Shiloh Christmas?
To write Shiloh Christmas? I don't know. A movie producer wrote to me, and or he called, I guess, and we were just talking about a number of things, and he said, I've always wanted to make a movie, a good family movie about Christmas, and I keep thinking about the Shiloh family. And the next thing you knew, I was writing a book about the Shiloh family at Christmas time, but it took a different turn than what I thought. It involves a preacher and the way he mistreats his daughters and just all kinds of things. And so I don't know if it was that phone call or whether it was something in the back of my mind I wanted to do all the time, but there it is.
Very good. Okay, Grace, you're next. What's your question, Grace?
What is your favorite book out of the Shiloh series?
My favorite book out of the Shiloh series?
Or out of the Shiloh series or any book? Okay, so it doesn't have any book you've ever written. So all the books that you've written, what has been your favorite book to write?
Oh, that's really hard. Probably the Alice books. for the Shiloh books. And the Alice books start with a girl when she's 8 years old in 3rd grade. And I wrote one book a year for 28 years. And the last book takes her from age 18 when she goes to college until age 60 when she's all grown up. And it was so much fun writing those books. It was really hard to stop, but I knew at some time I had to stop, so there are other books I want to write.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, Jaden, you're next with your question.
Hi, my name is Jaden. Who was the character of Marty in Shiloh 2?
I looked that up, and his name was Zachary Brown.
Okay.
And I don't know anything about who selects these. There's always a cast person who selects the cast, and people have to audition to try out for the parts. And I know that probably a lot of boys tried out for the part of Marty. And I liked it, the one that played it in the first movie. I thought he just did an excellent job. But by the time they made the second movie, that guy was pretty grown up. And that's the problem with having kids make movies in a series. By the time they get to the next movie, the characters look much older.
Yeah. And you and I talked about that. I also agree. And my student, when he answered that question, a lot of my students were shaking their head, agreeing with you that I think, have an agreement. Most of us agree that the actor in the first Shiloh did such a great job in the movie.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, Brooklyn, you're next.
Hello, my name is Brooklyn. I am 8 years old. My question for you is, how much time does it take to write a book?
It takes from about 6 weeks to 6 years, more than 6 years, because I think about books a long time before I write them. I put my thoughts down in notebooks, and I tear pictures out of newspapers, and I put in maps in the notebooks, and I just keep collecting little bits of things that I want to write about until finally the idea sort of boils over, and I think, okay, now I'm ready to write that book. So I have 9 notebooks beside my desk right now, and each one has a piece of masking tape on the cover, and it tells the name of that book to be, and it has pockets on the inside where I put the maps and the clippings, and I write many, many notes, but when it's time, one of those books will become my next book, and I don't right now know which one of those notebooks will make it next.
Very good. All right, Calvin, you have a question.
Hi, my name is Calvin. I am 8.5 years old. Did you always want to be an author?
You know, I didn't know that I could make a living at it. When I was your age, I just loved to write stories. That was the thing that I did when I got home from school. If I wasn't playing outside and making a lot of noise, I was inside making stories and drawing the illustrations and stapling all the pages together to make a book. And I wrote many, many, many of these books, and some my mother saved. But it wasn't until I was a teenager that an editor wrote to me and asked me if I would write a story for her church magazine, which I did, and it was published, and she sent me a check for $4.67, and I was so excited to think that I was actually getting paid to do something that I loved to do, whether I was paid for it or not. And then very, very slowly I began writing for other magazines and getting paid for it. And I really wanted to go to college, to a graduate program, and become a clinical psychologist working with children. But by the time I graduated, I was paying my way through college by writing a lot of short stories. I decided I really wanted to write full-time more than anything else, so I gave up plans for graduate school and began writing full-time. And that's when I really knew that I could make it as an author. and I've really loved it. I've been writing full time now for I think about 45 or 50 or 55 years. That's a long time.
That's a long time. Yeah. Wow. Okay, great. D'Angelo, you have the next question. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is D'Angelo. I'm 9 years old. About how long does it take you to get a publisher?
From the time that I send the manuscript in and the editor reads it and says, okay, I'm going to buy this one, until it goes through all of its revisions and goes to the copy editor and goes to the printer and goes to the binder and gets out and into the bookstore is 1 year. So I always know that by the, unless it has to have a lot of illustrations, like a picture book, and then it might be 2 years or 3 years because they have to line up an illustrator. And sometimes illustrators are working 2 and 3 books ahead of time. And so they'll say, well, I would love to do that book, but I'm just too busy right now. So we have a waiting line sometimes at the printers or a waiting line for the illustrator. But it's usually about a year.
About a year. Okay. Princess, you have the next question. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Princess. What was your favorite subject in school?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry. What was your favorite subject in school?
Oh, reading. Absolutely. I loved reading. The strange thing is, when I was in first grade, I just didn't understand how you read. Other kids would look at the words that the teacher printed, and they would read them out loud, and it just didn't make sense to me. And I kept thinking, how do they know? Those are just black marks on white paper. How do they know that those say those things? And so the next time she called on me, I thought that maybe reading was just making stories up. And because the words that she gave me had a little picture of a cat in a tree and a dog underneath the tree, I started making up a story about a cat in a tree and a dog running around the bottom. And the teacher looked at me and shook her head, and she looked very sad, and I was sad, and I just thought, I will never, ever learn to read. And I can't remember when I did. I just remember that once I learned to read, I just couldn't be held back. I just wanted to go to the next reader and the next reader, because it seemed like all the advanced readers had the best stories in them, and I wanted to get to those. So it became a pleasure, but it wasn't easy for me at first, and I don't know why.
Oh, good question. Lenny, you're next. Go ahead, Lenny.
Hi, my name is Lenny. How much books have you wrote?
Right now, I have written, not counting the one that I'm working on, 145 books.
So technically, when you complete this next book, that would be 100 and someone just said, well, that would be 146 once you finish this one you're writing now.
That's right.
Very good. Okay, Helena, you're next. Go ahead, honey.
Hi, my name's Helena. I am 9 years old. When did the real Shiloh die?
I think it was the year 2000. I know that I bought a gravestone, and they put that on her grave.
Yeah.
But and she was really a female dog. I turned her into a male dog in the book. But I think it was 2000, and I think it was 1988 when I found the dog. And the veterinarian figured that she was about 2 years old when I found her. And then she died in 2000. So that would make her about 12 years old when she died, which is a good life for a dog.
She had a very special life because she got to, I know when I was there and we were talking, that you told me that Clover, the real dog, was able to travel sometimes with you when you were talking to students about Shiloh, and the students were able to meet Clover.
That's right, except that I wasn't there.
Okay.
This was when, after I won the Newbery, and the story about her appeared in newspapers there in West Virginia. And so our friends who adopted her became sort of famous down there, and they got so many calls from schools and libraries that they began taking her around and telling the story of how I had come to visit with my husband and how I found a dog. And they were the ones that told me about it, putting her up on a library table, and then all the kids would line up with their copies of Shiloh, and they would take her paw and press it on a stamp pad and potograph each book. And she loved all this attention, and it was just so much fun to hear about all this. So that's the story behind it. I wish I had been there, but I was on the road speaking all over the country at that time. That's what happens when you win the Newbery Award. And they, in the meantime, were busy taking her around to schools and libraries in West Virginia.
Right. Okay, Mari, your question.
Hi, my name is Amarilla. Did you own Shiloh?
Did I own Shiloh?
Yes.
No, because I didn't live in West Virginia, and they did, and they found her even after I had left. They said she was still hanging around, and that's what made them decide to take her in and feed her and bathe her and get all the ticks off of her and take her to the vet for shots. And then she proved to be a very loving dog, and so it was a happy story all around. We never did know what her story was. We know that she acted like an abused dog when I found her. She was just too frightened to even let me pet her. But and yet she reacted very eagerly once you whistled. So it was just a very strange situation. And we were so glad that she ended up with a good home.
And of course, we know that from reading the Shiloh books that that's how in the book the character Judd and Marty realizes that's how they get the dog to come to them. So that's definitely that aspect is included in the book. So I think that's pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bakari, why don't you come up here, Bakari, a little bit to get closer? All right, here's Bakari. Here's Bakari's question. Bakari, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bakari. What is your favorite part and least favorite part of your job?
Oh, my favorite part is when I'm first writing the story, and somehow in something that I write, the character, like the character of Marty, really comes through on this paper, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got it. This is exactly how that kid would talk, and this is exactly the thing that he would do next. And then I get so excited because I really feel like I'm there, like I know exactly how Marty feels. And then in the next scene I know exactly how Judd feels and how he would walk and how he would talk and even how Shiloh feels. I know there was one scene where Becky was rolling around on the ground with Shiloh, and she was rolling around over his back. And I imagined that I was Shiloh, and I imagined if I were a dog and a little girl was rolling around on my back, I would have to dig my claws in the dirt, sort of, to keep my balance, so I wouldn't be rolling over too. And so it's like being a character on stage. The writer has to act out all of these parts in her imagination, and that's so much fun to me. I really love that. And my least favorite part is reading the galley proofs, and the galley proofs are what you call the pages when the printer first prints them out, and then they're sent to me. And they're not in a book yet, but I have to go over every single word very slowly to make sure that every word is spelled correctly, every punctuation mark is where it's supposed to be. And I get so tired doing that. And I hate that job, but it's something I have to do.
I think that's true in any job. You'll find that there are some parts that are great about your job, and there are parts that maybe are not so great. So
That's right.
any profession you have that. So just as a teacher, same thing.
That's true.
So last question would be Nadine. So Nadine, go ahead with your question.
Hi, my name is Nadine Alida. I'm 9 years old. My question for you is, what is the first book you ever wrote and the last book you have read?
Okay. The first book I ever wrote was called The Galloping Goat and Other Stories. And to tell the truth, I was so afraid to write a novel, a long story that would fill up a whole book, that I just collected 9 short stories that had already been published, and each one took place in a different country. And I put them together and called it the name of one of the stories, The Galloping Goat. And I sent them in to a Methodist publishing house, and they accepted it. And that was what gave me the courage to then go ahead and try writing a whole book myself, a whole novel, instead of just short stories. But the last book that I read myself just recently that I really loved was called Plain Song. And I can't tell you just how wonderful I found the writing, but it's about 2 elderly bachelor farmers or ranchers and how they get connected to the community that they've sort of not been a part of for so long. It doesn't sound very exciting, but to me it was very interesting because the writer wrote about these characters so well. But I like all kinds of books, and as soon as I read a book like that, then I want to read a fast mystery book or an adventure book. And it's the same way with writing. After I've written a very serious book, I want to do a very crazy book like the one I'm revising now called Roxy and the Ransom of Smokey Joe. That's just crazy stuff, but it's fun to write. And after I do that, I think I'm going to write a suspense novel. We'll see. We'll see what boils over next.
Well, I just want to thank you again for just spending time with us this afternoon and answering the questions of my students, and what a neat opportunity that they've had to talk to an accomplished author, a Newbery award-winning author. What a neat opportunity. I wish you were here to see their faces. They're so excited to be talking with you this afternoon, and I'm excited, of course, and I'm so thankful for our relationship, that we're able to do something like this and taking time out of your schedule, and so we definitely appreciate it very much. And
well, I was looking forward to it too. And when they announced over the loudspeaker about an hour ago that there was going to be just a trial fire alarm coming on, and I thought, oh, please don't let it be during the phone call. But it happened about 1:30, so we got that out of the way.
Well,
but it was my pleasure to talk to all you guys, and especially knowing how much you love the Shiloh books, and I hope that you enjoy the last book sometime, A Shiloh Christmas, and that when Roxy comes out, you'll enjoy that too. So happy reading to all of you.
Well, thank you.
Wishes to you, Chad.
Yeah, thank you so much again, Mrs. Naylor. We appreciate your time, and hopefully we will definitely, I'll definitely be in touch, and definitely be in touch, and look forward to definitely working with you in the future, and so thank you again for your time, and my students would like to say thank you. So guys, what do you have to say? Thank you again.
Have a good afternoon, all of you.
All right, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Francis. I'm 9 years old. And is Shiloh real?
Hi, my name is Kiana. Why did you want to become an author?